Any help for now?
No. All good. You guys good?
So we meant to get the salt vehicle for you guys for the weekend.
Oh, cool. Okay. So yeah, just speak to Noah. It's actually Nikita that's going up. Yeah.
Oh, you're not there.
No, I'm not there. Yeah, cool. I think I'm not going to see. I tried to pause the link and it didn't work, so I'm only going to start it again. When we restart the session.
Yeah, exactly.
The Zoom, the recording is paused. So I'll just continue the recording. But I think it's still broadcasting. Does she look like she's struggling? Looks like she is just annoyed with something. Let me just.
I'm sorry, because the vehicles are all on the blue side. They're you can only do it in a group.
You need me to do anything, otherwise I'm just going to do this printing for Tim.
Printing for?
Tim asked me to print some things for him. Otherwise I'm going to do it.
Just ask one of the guys, have a break, yeah, because you're gonna have to chair. In fact, why don't bring your food here and we just go through the rest of the program.
You want something on it?
I'll come and grab some now. I just want to make sure I got all the slides. Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
But it's not still not covering. Good idea.
We've got one change of speaker, but I forgot the guy's name. I'll just have to get his name. Where's your iPad? How's the food?
And I
What are you doing? Is the food okay? Is that on the sound system?
no, it's our fault. It's getting feedback.
Are you guys using the sound system? No. I can just 1, 2, 3. So maybe I'll start this.
Hey, Chris, how are you? This t-shirt.
I'm also using Excel.
I just wanted to get your name right. Asi Delan.
Another.
Oh, Ananda. Hey, how are you?
Right. Well done.
Thanks for tweeting stuff. I haven't even checked what you tweeted, but
I've made a map of where all the people are coming from.
no way. That's so cool.
Yeah. Published on the
Brilliant. I'll check it out later.
I mentioned you in the tweet with a link to the map.
Oh, cool. I'll check it out.
I know. It's like later.
Cool.
Keep tweeting like a crazy.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll go. Okay, I need this power. You guys, what can I unplug this?
You started. Yes. You want to send rockets up to you? Oh, he could see it near me before he's trying to do it now. See if it works better. There he is. Thank you guys. I can't see it. We're having a problem. I'm not sure what it's with. I'm trying to fix it.
Yes, we can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You see me?
Yes, I can see it.
I can see it too.
Right, 1 second. I close the door, so checking.
I can see Andy. Yes, yes. She's on. Well, I want to get out of this and we want to get you to try because we get more in and see if we can get on that. So I'll wait now. Hang on, Rob, we're getting there. Rob, can you hear me from here? Can you hear me from here? Yeah, okay. The microphone that's supposed to pick up the sound from the distance is not. We'll have to do something about that. But can we try putting him through? Just so we look at you. We won't do this for very long. The room is full of people. No idea what's going on. Need that. Is it? No, it's not there. Yeah, this is it. So actually, it'd be a lot easier rather than go to the room for other people. Okay, we can now see what way.
Just like this.
Say something. Sing.
I'm not going to sing, but I'm going to talk.
Okay, that's good. Do you want to show some slides or something?
Actually, I don't know how to do that.
At the bottom, you just click share. See your the mouse down at the bottom.
It's a green thing.
Yeah, got it, got it. Yeah, screen.
Did you click it? Yeah.
Oh, no, we can't see your screen, we can just still see you.
So we click screen sometimes if you're on a Mac or if you can Zoom, you need to allow sharing that. There might be a window at the top of the
Yeah, actually, I'm getting an option where there's a button saying share, but it's graying down. Wait, hang on.
Shall we stop doing that and get the share?
Look at this. Can you see this?
Yes.
Exam. You can see the exam question.
Sorry. Might even be able to answer. Isn't it all? Yeah, I think we've got a few things to get sorted out at this end, but it looks like it'll work. Have you got any time tomorrow where we might try this again? Send me an email suggesting when possible. You know what to do now to share your. We'll see what we can do about that anyway. I think it might be as well to have that as a backup, but at the moment this looks perfect. There's a tiny little picture of your head and then quite a nice picture of the Okay, thanks for doing that. We've lost Bin as well. He's got stuck in China and the virus, so we might find the same thing. Okay, many thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Please. So this is a new one. Let's move it to tomorrow. I don't understand. Okay. I have a. Well, this
Oh, no, just not speaker. Yeah. Speaker.
do we have to plug? Did she have this plugged in somewhere else? I think I'm sorry to we really helped you.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else. I wouldn't mind having some lunch, but not the most urgent thing. Perhaps we can find. We've got all our. Lucy, how could get. I don't know. Will you have all of that?
Yeah.
I think so. I hope so.
Maybe you can step back. Slowly. Find the work, not at
Right, if everyone can take their seats, we're going to start the next session now.
So we need to open now. Are we screening? Yeah. Let's go.
Okay, will you do the next session?
Let me do this.
I don't see
I don't know where the rest of
So we on the this session. So Anton is not there. But I made notes on Vanessa's iPad. So Anton is not there, and this talk, the one stain is actually Ati Delanga. Okay. But she should be back by the time we get to that. We just we'll start to Philip. Yeah, Philip. Yeah, I'll just check in.
Okay, so we're ready to start. Let's just check in with everyone. How is everyone doing? Are you overwhelmed by the number of talks and stuff? Have you ever been to a meeting with this many talks in this short time? But thanks very much to all the speakers for keeping to time, and it's a good exercise. You know, science communication. You need to practice getting your message across. But we have so many amazing people. We need to sort of hear from as many people as possible. So if there's anything, you guys, aircon's okay. Everyone is happy with. No one's unhappy at the moment. You're unhappy? Come and see me. Okay, I'll hand over and we'll go to the next session.
Thank you, Kelvin. Welcome, everybody. Welcome the graveyard shifts. We are going through another lightning talks, and we have a number of presentations. Again, 4 minutes. In the time of the pond. Yeah. Tell the story. This is Philip. Is Philip around? Yes, please. Come and tell us your story. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. At least I can confirm the lunch was good.
Forward, backward, laser.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to, my presentation just to share with you how we look at synergies and trade-off in sustainable development goals. And I'll give you an example of some of the work we've been doing in Kenya. Technology doesn't seem to be cooperating.
Is it not? Oh, sorry.
Is it?
Okay, try now.
Okay, I wouldn't, you remember from Sareli's presentation in the morning, the SDGs, the Agenda 2030 is indivisible. That means that we need to look at all the goals and achieve goals together, not individually. And what can happen is that some goals can actually enhance the achievement of other goals. Actually, to achieve one goal can enhance the achievement of other goals. But we also have situations where action on one goal can actually undermine or counteract the achievement of other goals. I'm just using the example of agriculture. If you look at agricultural development, I come from a conservation, conservation, and we know that increasing food production has come a lot in terms of expanding area, which is leading to deforestation and affecting other natural wildlife and natural ecosystems. And so there's been this issue about how do you consider increasing food production while at the same time integrating biodiversity conservation into the landscape. And then just in terms of, is there anything else we've done there that makes it not work?
Oh, try.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you an example of Kenya. So Kenya, that's the map of Kenya, those of you who've been there. This is a map showing land use in Kenya, where you have crop agriculture, the light green areas in 1981, and the dark green areas shows where you have agriculture expanding in the year 2000. So the arid and semi-arid areas in Kenya cover about 70% of the total country's land mass. That's why we have the highest amount of wildlife, which underpins, of course, our ecotourism, which is a big part of the economy. So if you want to think about it, when we look at the period from 1981 to 2000, we find that in that arid land where you have the largest proportion of wildlife and ecotourism, you have the highest increase of crop cultivation. So basically what I'm trying to say is that crop cultivation is expanding more and more into the marginal areas and thereby compromising ability for wildlife health space for them. So if you want to look at that in terms of quantitative numbers, you see the red dots are wildlife biomass, which you basically see that areas where you have high red dots, we have wildlife biomass between 50 to 120 grams per meter squared, and the same area where we are expanding. So while we are making progress in terms of increasing food production, we're actually undermining the nature. So basically, we are achieving SDG 2, but at the same time compromising the ability to achieve SDG 15. And you can see if you want to look at the way system is changing in terms of annual rate of change, wildlife is the only one which is declining at a rate of about 3.2% per annum. Yet we have livestock and cultivation areas increasing. So that was just a snapshot of what we do. We do a lot of work in terms of looking at interaction synergies and SDGs, including what was shared initially in the morning. And I would like to invite those who have that kind of interest to talk to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for keep on time. The next one is Claudio. Claudio, it's your time. He's talking about helping the government. I like the story.
Yeah, no one. The big button to advance.
Okay. Sorry, the cable was just.
Yeah, no, that's a separate one. Ooh. Okay.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Claudio from Mozambique, and I'm working to help my government to see science as a priority, or to consider to use science for development. Basically, science is not priority in my country, but the country itself shows potential to grow very fast due to the natural resource being discovered. So Mozambique is the future for all of this near future. We are part of SKA. So we decided to use astronomy to see how we can help the country to see the science as a very good contribution for the development. Since 2004, we are using astronomy to promote STEM in Mozambique. We do outreach with some publications. We go to public places, we go to schools, as you can see. We use media to take the word astronomy for the STEM. We run many projects like JEDI, Nadine spoke about it in the last section. Project like DARA to enforce the outreach workshops in Mozambique. We invest on young people. We are trying to use the young people as the future leaders. We spoke previously, we need to put science into politics. And we decided in Mozambique to start educating the next generation or the future generation, so that when they turn into politics, they can be aware about the science involvement for the development. Another project is this one, Doppler project, which links Portuguese-speaking country, where we want to go to industry, to public, to school, put our government involved, and so on. We have some results. From our work, we were able to convince the politicians in the university. So we have astronomy as a unit underway. And after 8 years of discussion, next year we will have a course of astronomy. We see development. We have some facility like a computer lab in which we are using to bring better education quality. Under the government, in our DST, we have now the Center of High Performance Computing there, but our big challenge is the changing of leaders. New ministers. Now we have new government, so we need to start again working with them, because the time of the ministers is too short when we see the results from all of this work. We realize that we need to change the strategy. We need to link what we are doing with all these fields to see how we can see quickly the commitment from the government. We need to find a way to solve our local problems. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Claudio. I hope they will listen to you and listen to us as well. We were advised that Anthony is not here to talk to us about the AKS, but Felix is here to talk about health and happiness. Please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll begin by saying thank you to two organizations. First, the Committee on Data for Science and Technology, co-data, data arm of ISC, for sponsoring my air ticket, and also the Office of Astronomy for Development, OAD, for my hotel pickup and hotel stay. I will do justice to this health and happiness, the role of data science implementation, enhancing well-being of citizens through effective data policy making. Now, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. Now, data is the new oil we know, but as a data scientist, and like every oil, you have to find it, extract it, refine it, distribute it, and use it to drive economic growth via effective policy making. We've heard of the weatherman, smart umbrella, where the weather units, and they are using an umbrella that has the ability to measure the intensity of rain. And in measuring that intensity of rain, they can actually tell where the next flood is going to happen, data. The Predpo is a software where they're using historical data to actually predict where crime will happen next. And it's 2 times faster in predicting crime than the local American police. They're using data to predict future symptoms of oncology in patients. I've mentioned something like this where the decision of the citizens were not consulted before this huge sum of money was sunk into a project monorail that never saw the light of day. UK government is using data to actually tell the poorest places in England so that they could effect policy that will cause a change in those areas. Remember the Ebola? So many organizations came to West Africa, and the moment Ebola is done, they all went away with their data. So we have no data, meaning the next Ebola strikes, we don't know what to do next. Presently, we're having an issue with soot emission due to illegal refinery in Port Harcourt City. There's no data to actually tell us the implication or the health effect of this. So I was consulted as a biostatistician by the Ministry of Health. My job is now to get data people that will go to facilities and collect health data before the suit and health data after the suit, so that we can actually tell the implication of the health suit. But if we have a data repository, all these wouldn't have been a problem. So that's the benefit of having a data repository. Good city life is good data. In the US, they have the City Health dashboard that is doing a lot. You can actually tell any condition just by the click, and there's data available to work on. The core data, it's also doing a lot in advancing science as a global public good by using data. I don't want to debate about whether technology is good, whether it's not good, whether the patients they are in terms of them being exposed to the public, but in a nutshell, according to Kevin Kelly, all technology is inherently good. And I think data can be used for much better good than predicting elections. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're making our life much easier by keeping on time. The next one is talking about integrated data and decision support tool. And we have Claire.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what SAON is doing in terms of making data accessible. So the South African Environmental Observation Network is a branch of the NRF, and we are mandated by DSI to preserve and provide access to Earth and observational data for South Africa. So the previous presentation provided a nice context for this. There is a need to access scientific data. There's a need to also translate it. This morning, someone spoke about access to data isn't necessarily always sufficient. Sometimes it's got to be interpreted correctly in order for decision makers to use it. And then also ensure that data is correctly described. So this is regarding sufficiently described metadata. So in order for people to use data many years later or to understand it in a different context, you need to have the data described correctly in order for other people to use it. And then lastly, you need to have data that actually serves a purpose. How do people need it? What format do they need to use it in or have it? So understanding who the users are of this data is also very important. So taking all these four aspects into account, SAON is developing what we're calling our open data platform, which involves a data visualization, data dashboard, downloads to data. And then using a combination of trust and fair principles. So trust is ensuring that our data repository is trustworthy and people have a sense of they can rely on the data that we're providing and that it's fair. So these are just some of the sort of terminology that's out there that describes the kind of data and principles that we're building our platform on. This just gives you an overview of the types of data our open data platform will have in. And then this is just an example of the spatial data collections that we already have and we're busy building in SAON. They're organized according to different themes. These are just some examples. And then this is an example of what level of information is actually presented online. So you have the map interface to visually just explore the data. You just want to quickly look at it. There's information on downloads, so you can download the data. In cases you get data can be issued a DOI so that people can cite it and get references for that data. Provides keywords and abstract and obviously the authors of this. So this gives an overview of the kind of information that surrounds the data that we have in our ODP. And then you can access those data collections I spoke about online.
Thank you, Clay. To talk about that, digital language resources. One is not here, but Atia is here to take us through.
Good afternoon, everybody. I represent SUNLAB, South African Centre for Digital Language Resources. We're part of the Summit for History, Science and Technology. We're funded by Science and Innovation, and we are hosted as a research infrastructure at the Northwest University.
Okay. There are 15, I think, or about 18 now research infrastructures in the country. This is part of the SARI program of the SI, South African Research Infrastructure Roadmap Program. And as a lone life, as a poetry person, I feel like Lone Ranger of all the scientists. But we're the only humanities program in the section. What do we do? In a sense, we are support long-term research infrastructure so that we can have enough data for the language side, develop tools and applications. If you look at Sunlight, we have two main functions of our development is concerned. First, we have to develop visual language data, especially for the 9 South African languages. Because there are not 4 crops, there are not enough tools. Then we also have to develop processing tools like part-of-speech taggers, morphological analyzers to manipulate the data. And then what we can consider that as building blocks for development, and I'll show you something about that. Then our other task is to manage and distribute the data, and also then to digitize. And we also have to train a new generation of what is called digital humanists. In the humanities and social sciences, computational programs and computational methodologies are not that familiar. And that's part of it. We have to provide the data with which they can do the work, but we also have to provide them with training so they can become digital humanists. So we train them primarily in linguistics, using these computational methods in linguistic literary studies, that they call digital humanities. And it's a practical example of one of our groups at CSIR. We had child data. This is a speech impaired child at a special school. Because we didn't have enough child data, he had an old person's voice. That was changed with more data. So now he has a young person's voice. So he was very, very glad to see his face on television. Just one example. And here's another example where we provide building blocks for people to take those building blocks and to. Here we have a text-to-speech system which creates voices, human-like voices. For example. If you look at that little block just on the red one, that is the speech, that is the phrase that was now translated, the text phrase that was translated now in with the machine. Not perfect, but it's not. Yeah, and then we would like to collaborate. If you can go to our website, we also have funding for projects, for developmental projects in our field, and related to that. So we would like you to visit our website. Thank you.
For the presentation, it's interesting. Whitney will talk to us about the role of IT industry in all this.
Good day, everybody. My name is Lee Abiola Kushimo. I am a practicing IT expert. I started a PhD and I dropped out of it because I don't want to be like you guys. So I'm going to be telling you from my perspective, the role of IT, as well as your researchers. A copy of this is in the boardroom. I'll pick it up when we're done with this meeting. The first slide. So, IT information technology, emphasized. It's a broad area. Most of our presentations today have mentioned technology. The last one mentioned converting text to speech and the reverse. Everything has to do with coding. So most of my definitions will be based on my knowledge. Science is about the world we are in, and development is the process of growth in science. We understand that technology refers to computing, and is most processed by computing. And science for development focuses on how actions and tools can be used to drive multidisciplinary goals of global development. Now, the truth is, IT can either play one of these two roles. It can be the producer. For example, in an earlier presentation, someone mentioned Uber. Uber is an innovation entirely on IT, which is not dependent on a new innovation on any other side. We've always had the vehicle, we've always had the human, we've always had this whole science world running. Then IT came in to produce that innovation. Then it can be an integrator where you have two or more disciplines integrated with by IT, and you can have it can be an enabler. In many cases, we have some of our researches, we have applications, we have report systems, and in that case, IT is an enabler. So what we need to do, these are the different action points. We need to understand IT. Because you are researching in bioinformatics, it does not mean you have nothing to do with IT. When you are researching in physical sciences or biological sciences, you should understand the bit of IT, understand the policies that play in the environment, particularly when it comes to your government, understand how you can incorporate IT to your researches, understand how you can use data, understand the data you're producing, how it's being stored, how you can use it, and most importantly, understand the security around the IT, the setup, the framework that you're using, particularly the data. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I think this brings us to the end of the session, but the conversation continues. Our next session is to discuss the same issues. We are going to Devin, please call the panelists.
I don't know why I volunteered to. So now we're going to go into the next session. So this is going to be a panel discussion, and I think it picks on something very interesting that it was asked earlier. So if the panelists can come, maybe come and sit in the front. You can move the chairs a bit to see the other presentation. So we're lucky to have 4 amazing people. We've got Tanya from Manchester, we've got Stanley from ASAP, Bukosi from the University of Victoria, and Kala from BUT. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but so what we're going to do, we'll have some quick presentations. You guys want timers in your presentations? I think you should. Just to be fair to everyone else. So we'll put them on timers as well. But the stream of our thinking is so first we'll get an overview from Tanya about, we've been talking about how do we influence government? How do we influence these things? Well, what does science mean for policy? What do we mean by evidence-based policy? So Tanya is going to talk about the work that they're doing, which covers a broad aspect. Then Stanley is going to talk about specifically how science affects this. ASAP, the Academy of Sciences of South Africa, they specifically use science to influence policy. Then we look at a specific example. So of course, you will talk about education as an example. You know, what can we do to influence education policy, especially from a machine learning and data science point of view. And then Kala will sort of bring it back and say, okay, this is all fine, but how do we engage with the communities that we actually matter, our target audiences? So that's the stream of thinking. So I'm going to hand it over to them, and we'll start off with Tanya.
Sit down and do.
It's your choice. Your choice. You can decide. Sorry. Right. Go for it.
Hi, afternoon. So I'm Tanya Graham. I run the policy unit at the University of Manchester, and so we've been set up to support the university, and we have a couple of mandates really. And this is the first one. The Policy Manchester aims to impact lives globally, nationally, and locally through influencing and challenging policymakers. Robust research, informed evidence and ideas. And we do that by working and connecting our researchers with policymakers and influencers to affect that change. So why is this important? It's important because it makes the world a better place. And at the university as well, we have social responsibility and civic engagement at our very heart and core values. Why do we do it as well? It enables politicians to make balanced decisions and to tread a careful line between emotive demands from constituents and carefully considered balanced policies that work for everybody. It gives rigour to civil servants and regulatory bodies and enables them to make decisions that are non-partisan as well. And it promotes our research and leads to impact for our academics. And a really good example actually was in the data presentation earlier, the inequalities that are being looked at in the UK, at the very heart of what we're doing at the university with our academics working in Manchester to solve those complex problems. So how do we do this? We work across, we offer a number of different options. We find experts, roundtables, we have informal conversations with policymakers that are offline so they can speak confidently to academics around their areas of interest. We submit evidence to select committees and we run panel events at party conference. But what we do is we do policy briefings, we do publications, and we provide briefing notes that feed into exactly what the policymakers are after. An example of that is we've a recent one on gender, which is looking at making policy making through a gendered lens, particularly for devolved authorities that aren't actually doing that, where they don't have a mandate in Parliament. They do this, they don't necessarily have that implicit in their policies in the devolved areas. Another one is around on materials that we launched in June, and that is looking at the new materials in the biotech sector, but also around graphene, obviously, which is at the heart of Manchester as well. And that's a way of really communicating well. And we have just launched yesterday our new publication on digital trust, which is looking at the issues around new technologies and how are they good, are they helping, or are they adverse consequences of that, which we're very excited about. So that's how we speak to them. And for our academics, we provide training and skills to enable them to have these constructive conversations with policymakers. So we empower them with how they need to engage, how they need to write their briefings, how they need to approach. And we support that also with horizon scanning and intelligence gathering, so they know who they need to speak to, when they need to speak to them, and how to do that. So that's how we operate. And I welcome further discussion around that, particularly in light of the conversations that I've already had this morning.
Okay, thanks very much. You feel free to talk.
I didn't do all my slides. I got carried away with talking. I realised that.
So that was now sort of an overview of how science is influencing policy. So now let's hear from the academy. As to how scientists are doing.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. My title is about bridging the gap, not building the walls between science and policy. There's a book that I read a lot which says, to whom much is given, from whom much will be demanded. So science is everything. Science in food, science in communication, science in politics. So that's why so much is demanded from science. But there's this gap between these two people, the scientist and the policymaker. Incidentally, these people know each other. The other one taught the other. But now there is a gap between them, which must be bridged by this discussion we are dealing with today. And the bridge is because there are problems that are of various nature. Some are simple and some are complicated, but there are some that are wicked, complicated, and very complex, that therefore need a lot of science than the others. Especially, the Sustainable Development Goals tell us about what is called the complex problems or the wicked problems that all the countries agreed to address by 2030. So the Academy of Science then does what is called science advice to try and address the wicked problems. And science advice is about the process, structure, and institutions that ensure that governments consider science and technology their decision-making processes. It's also called Science for Policy. But looking at this diagram, you see something that is running here, where science must do two things: advise for future issues, where science plays a lot of role there in terms of long-term planning, but also for now issues, emergency issues, crisis issues, disaster management that has been spoken about here. So the Academy of Science does both, and we have been in the process of trying to really ensure that we build this trust. And the trust is through the fact that the Academy is consisting of the top scientists in the country who gather and they then produce what is called consensus studies. The trust element is about politicians, policymakers, media, and public, as well as scientists. And when we say policymaker, are we really talking about the politician or somebody else lower who we can talk to much more easier, because the politician and the legislator changes after 5 years. Humility is also quite important, as well as my time is gone. Brokering and not advocacy. My previous role was in toy and making a lot of noise. But in science advice, you don't put placards and jump up and down and make a lot of noise, but we bring evidence instead of that. So the skill sets that we need is to remember that we have a lot of audiences that are interested in the complexities of science and go beyond the single discipline. Somebody talked about social science and the natural working together, and also understanding the language of policy, the white paper, the green paper, the consultations, the bills, the acts, the manifestos, where scientists disappear and they only come in and try to bring advice when all this have been done. I think I have no time, but thank you.
It's okay, you're part of the panel. You'll have a chance to speak again. Right. So, this thing might be let's test that and see. Right. Next, we have Vukosi.
Go for it.
Sure. So I wanted more to, one thing I'll talk about is what's education, but I wanted to give an overview of my research group at the University of Victoria. So this is a data science for social impact research group, which we have got an invitation to say, come here, we're looking at science and development. This is really something that I'm passionate about, and also the students and other collaborators I work with. We live in this kind of world where we're looking at data science in society, and then like 60% of the time, this natural language processing, which is kind of what the cellular people were saying. So in the natural language processing, one of the challenges that we have is that we want to be able to build tools for people locally, and you need to get machines to understand our language. It's not something that is you can wait anymore. We are getting to that point where if a machine doesn't understand that language, 10, 20 years from now, it means that language never exists, kind of in a way. So if we're thinking about making our science accessible, in a way, we need to figure out how to deal with this. So we're building kind of systems to deal with some of these low resource language situations. So we are using some of the data that comes from cellular. And here being an example of building things that can increase the data artificially in such a way that you can train and use products. So think about automation translation, which is a very large project that my team and I are also working on all 11 languages currently at the moment. Now, when it comes to education, which I can talk about in a bit, we are working between the university having our own Mamelodi campus and seeing the interventions that happen there, and then also working with now the Minister of Education of Sierra Leone, who was the Chief Innovation Officer of Sierra Leone. We started this collaboration where we're now saying, okay, we want to look at education data. We want to use machine learning and data science to be able to understand factors that lead to good performance, bad performance, everything else in between. How then does it actually have policy implications? So in South Africa, for now, we don't have that opportunity to be working literally on the WhatsApp group with the Minister of Education one day. But with Sierra Leone, that's the access that we have as myself and the students on there. So we literally then go in, we build models, we identify factors. From those factors, on the other side, the minister looks at them and then asks questions and says, hey, what does this mean? Or this actually doesn't make any sense given what we're actually doing on the ground. So what's wrong? Is something wrong with the data? Is there something wrong with the kind of machine learning models? And we're trying to figure that out. So it is a journey. I hope by the end of this year to be able to go like, okay, how do you work directly with the policy making? It's in some ways a high-stakes situation. We have to then protect ourselves also that we don't say things that might not actually be true. So it means that the burden of evidence goes a little bit higher on that. But then through this, we're then trying to actually have that whole pipeline that we start with the science, but always make sure that there's social impact goes and it goes into things that are out of our hands. And I think that's what data scientists want to do. You want to build things, develop things that ultimately are not things that you use. Right? So yes, I write the paper, but I must have a tool or a system or a process that then somebody else then takes and then uses it for something else. Continuing on to other things that we hope to be impactful in policy. Here, for example, some work that we're doing on looking at sexual predation online and conversations and all those things. How we build tools for that you can automate things like this. The student we just finished actually today, he just submitted his dissertation on looking at the South African election through the lens of social media, the media, and political parties, where you have all this text, all this data that is very unstructured. And we're trying to now understand our society from it. And it also provides a cross-cutting thing of looking at the social science, looking at computing and all those things. And then ultimately, what does it say about us as a society? Also, yeah.
Thank you.
Right, now, it's only when I talk that this thing doesn't work.
No, you hold it very well.
Test it out, let me take your presentation. See, it works for you. Right, now we get down to the communities. Okay, you can go for it.
Okay. Okay, my presentation is basically called Mind the Gap, and it's looking at community engagement for bridging divides in research. one of the questions that was presented to me about Drew's actual talk was looking at how can we make a difference for people, and what about the communities that the policies target. And I was thinking about it for a while, and the first thing that came to me immediately stuck out was, how can we make a difference for the people? What if we change that to, how can we make a difference with the people? It creates a shift in how we look at our problems and look at creating solutions. The idea of community engagement, everybody in this room, I'm sure, is going to say, oh, but we work with communities. Okay? We've done something with communities. We've taught communities. We've had somebody from a community sit on our panels, sit in a workshop. They've come and they've listened to something we've said. So we have had community engagement. I'm willing to say that I could argue that you've had community involvement, you've had tokenism, and that pretty much lies at the root of some of the problems that we're dealing with and why we've got such a divide. Okay? But basically, community engagement, we're looking, is an approach that creates a space for collaboration by enabling the inclusive sharing of expertise and co-learning for complex problem solving. One of the previous presentations talked about wicked problems, and this is one of the ways that we're basically suggesting is how we can look at addressing these problems. Okay? We're talking about community engagement, and we're ultimately looking at transformation. And we're talking about how we can transform the science, policy, and society, and how they interact. We are looking at ideas and shifting mindsets, okay? That instead of servicing community, we want to look at co-learning and co-producing knowledge, okay? We want to create scenarios where communities' needs are involved from the start, okay? Think about the work that you do. Think about the projects that you do. How many of you have sat in a room with other academics and developed this project? Or there's a funding call. Oh, it has to have a community element. Oh, we know a community. We know a Kailisha. In our area, we know Ikahen. Okay? There was some township, some group, some people, yes, they need to know about my science. They need to know about my disasters. So we're just going to bring them in. They don't even know what they're missing, which is true in some cases. Okay? But ultimately, how you do that, real community engagement, is getting people involved from the beginning. And unfortunately, the one thing that involves is leaving the famous ivory tower. The researchers that like the air-conditioned offices and the fancy boardrooms and meeting areas, it's going out and actually interacting with communities. It is inclusive. It is involving integration, and it's about problem solving. One of the ways that we find that how we can get the most value is to give voices to the voiceless. That's the women, the disabled, the children. Look at who your targets are. Involving people. Bringing expertise. We were talking earlier how I'm pretty much willing to bet that at least everybody in the room at minimum has a master's degree. Correct? Yeah. Okay, so at some level you are a master of something. And the assumption is that when you go to meet in the community, that you are the master. Well, you know what? They're experts too. What we want to say is this community engagement is a way that we can shift power between shift power to build collaborative ownership of problems and create co-learning and co-producing of knowledge for creating sustainable solutions. This is what it looks like. This is how it feels, and this is how it sounds. It's creating a way of bridging these gaps by creating opportunities for people to come together all up.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Serious. Hello? Okay. I really thought this microphone didn't like me. Okay, so let me. Yeah. Okay, so we've heard from all these amazing people, and we've gone through the spectrum of how we try to influence government. I'm going to immediately jump into questions, and then we'll see. If you guys get bored of questions, I've got a bunch of questions for them as well. So let's open it up. What are your thoughts? Any particular questions or challenges that you want to give to it? Right. So I'm going to ask you, if you want to ask a question, just come, the mic will reach about one here and there.
Thank you.
Yeah, just
Okay. I am following the different presentation since this morning and this particular one, and I feel that there is a big gap between science and different branch of science and the development, the real development. It said this morning that 80% of illiteracy, mostly in Africa. So the gap between scientists and the population on the ground is huge and very big. And how we can deal, this is the real problem. I think we need to fill this gap and review the strategy, as it's already said. The review the strategy is to, instead of publication, for example, we will continue to publish scientific articles, send it to international news letters or papers, but particularly in Africa, we need to create like experimental sites to make science on the ground, because the population there, they understand when they find something to put to eat, when they find something to put it in their pocket, or something to ameliorate their well-being. This is the key idea that maybe we can follow later to make some recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, so let's take a few comments and just keep notes, and then you can respond after.
I think as somebody who is an academician and also highly linked with the industry, and also I was involved in some management, as what I perceive is there is a very big gap in understanding the mandates, the perceptions, the capacities of the politicians, and also the academic. So I think there is a very big research gap that I could identify that we are not filling the gaps actually. So for me, that is the core. And then what you are doing, for example, in South Africa, I think that 4 or 5 minute presentation, I think it's really unfair for this type of discussion. So maybe if you can share us more. But I could see there's a very big gap between these two extremes in all our fields, I think.
Okay, thanks very much. Yeah, Tim. And I'm also going to give priority to anyone who has not had a voice yet. So if you haven't had a talk or anything like that, you want to ask a question, you'll get priority.
Just a question, and this is related to community and engaging with the community as we use science for development. I know that the U.S., we think of us as a developed nation. There are a lot of times over the past few years where I think we've had serious questions about that. Because we might be economically developed, but we sure are underdeveloped in so many other areas. And so, in particular, when it comes to using science for development and ensuring that the indigenous communities and their ways of knowing, their ways of doing science are incorporated and not excluded, that they're actually included in the use of science for development and respected and honored. I'm curious if you've got examples of where that has actually taken place, because we struggle with it in the US.
Okay, let's take some responses. Anyone wants to?
I've rounded up response, I think, to those three comments. But I think the point that was first alluded to about how to get those key ideas out to the public so they can understand that it's, they can feel it in the food, money in their pocket. I think that's the same for politicians. The gap between academics and politicians is wide. Actually, you've got to find that narrative, and that's what we always look for, that narrative. And I think if you could bring it down to its simplest forms, because they're not technical specialists, they're not experts in that field, but they are the ones that can implement those decisions and make those policies. So it is actually bringing it down to its simplest form that layperson can understand, whether that's the politician or a member of the public. It's that they're still parents, they're still, they're still, families, they're still, in business, they're still, they understand those elements. Sorry, can you not hear? Sorry. So I think it is making it into that simplest form, and that's partly what we do and why we get that, because we take very complex research and put it into an A5 piece of paper that a politician, a minister can understand, which isn't easy. I appreciate that. It sounds very simple, but it's getting that hooked and a story that can hook them, that can get that emotion from them, actually helps.
Yeah. Anyone else wants to? You can respond to any, or
yes,
just.
Yes, I think I need to respond on the gap where that exists, that is needed in terms of research between the work of the policymaker and the scientist. I agree 100% that we need to really
just hold that.
work on that and be able to address those particular that gap between the two and be able to bridge it for the benefit of society. I think the role of the academies of science that are located within the globe, but also in Africa in particular, are trying to do that. The major problem is that some of the academies of science are struggling financially. They are operating like NGOs and stuff like that. Therefore, the capacity to do research and policy advice in their countries is limited. But when we work together, that can be solved.
Thank you. I just wanted to respond to the question on indigenous knowledge. I think it's a bit of a difficult question to answer, and I say this because there's a concept in terms of participation, and the work of Arnstein in 1969 has kind of set the foundation for what is participation. When we talk about community engagement, ultimately ownership and co-production is the goal. But you do have the scenarios where in a lot of projects you get a lot of indigenous populations, particularly I can speak to work in disastrous reduction, where particular groups are involved in projects and are consulted, sit on committees, are involved, but they're not necessarily again in the actual, we need information, we want to work with somebody, we've got these problems. So on the one hand, they're involved in a lot of community development, and the lesser of the scale in terms of participation is what some universities consider community engagement. By my definition, I'm not familiar with a whole lot of projects like that are happening right now in South Africa, so I think there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, I think 2 points, one connected to that. The first one being, I think one of the things to take in data science and machine learning, AI, whatever, is that data is ultimately about people for a lot of times. And that is a challenge that we live with all the time, is that we try to make sure when you're teaching, when you're doing research, that people aren't just numbers, but how then do we get to a point where we can actually engage with the community? And this is it is a hard thing because, as people have said, this is not, it's something that is not necessarily counted in the way that we count things in academia. But at the same time, if we don't get the trust of society in what we're doing, then what are we doing all of this for? Kind of in a way, and it's something I think we should always carry with us. The second one on bridging with policymakers, I think it's important. I spent some time last year with the Director Generals of all the ministries of South Africa, mostly working on demystifying. We are in this 4IR mess in South Africa currently at the moment. And it's a challenge for me as a scientist to just let it just go. Because if we do not engage, if we don't find ways to demystify, if we don't find ways to teach policymakers, it doesn't mean I gave them a definition of what AI is, and they're like, oh, you simplified. I'm like, no, that is the definition. It is something it is not something that is complex, because sometimes people come to you and say, it is so complicated, you can't understand it. And that's going to policymakers with that view also closes the conversation. And then what are we going to do? Then we complain on the other side. We don't have enough money. People don't want to give us money. Well, if you, as I say, you can't explain to your grandmother what really your science is about. Why then should society be giving you money? Cool.
Okay, let's take another round of questions. Let's see 1, 2, and 3.
And this is a point. I'm leading a project in the NRF that's looking at defining a research agenda for the NRF. And one of the things that we want to do is to steer our knowledge enterprise or research enterprise more towards impact, which is really about making a difference in the lives of society. And we're looking at defining 5 dimensions around which that possible impact is achievable. Around knowledge, which is about pushing the boundaries of knowledge, around the social impact on improving the quality of life of people on the ground, economically, or economic impact around how does the research that you propose improve the competitiveness of our strategic industry, right? At a environmental level, how does the research that you propose look at, propose to protect natural resources for future generations? And fifthly, technologically, to say how does the research that you propose can possibly lift the technological base of the country? So those 5 dimensions around which you can make impact. And one of the things that's clear to us is that there is this chasm between doing the research and then wanting your research to be useful. And so you want the politicians to understand your research. And we think that part of the solution is that if you adopt an engaged research approach right from the beginning through a co-creation process with the potential beneficiaries of that research, then you don't have to translate that research, because you would have co-created it with the people that are most likely to benefit from it. So in the end, there's no need for translation. But right now, we do our research and finish it and present a paper or report, and then say, how come you don't understand what I'm doing?
Right. That's a good point. Okay. There's come away. Might reach.
Okay, again, coming back to the issue of politicians, I think we're being too kind to politicians. We keep saying that they don't understand science. I don't believe it, I'm sorry. We've been hearing that since this morning. They may or may not understand the science, okay, but I think every politician in every country has teams of scientific advisors and technical advisors to help them understand. So if they're not understanding or pretending not to understand, it's either because they have their own personal or political agenda, or they simply want to shut their eyes to evidence, scientific evidence, no matter how compelling it is. And this is what we're seeing with climate change. So I think we have to stop being kind to them and see what way we can actually get them to do what we want.
Thanks, man. Any other hands before I give it to you, since you chaired the session? So any other hands that haven't had a voice?
Thank you. Yeah, so to echo what's being said here, but also I think we are touching upon a very interesting conversation here. A lot of research, a lot of scientific research can be co-created, as was mentioned earlier. But when you take fundamental science, you take like astronomy or fundamental mathematics research or things like that, I think even if we do the research, say, and then it's very narrow, it's very specialist. As scientists, we're very specialist, and we say we give this to policymakers, and they receive these science outputs for lots of different policymakers who are in isolation, very specialists doing their own thing. The policymakers have a big job trying to make sense of all that in a context. And I'm thinking, considering the incredible people that we are in here, as scientists, we spent a life learning things. So why don't we just try to learn from each other and from the policymakers and the decision makers to understand and to reach out in that direction, understand the context a little bit better ourselves, and with some humility and approaching with learning, and not assuming that the science is the hard part and the rest is easy. Because I think it's the other way around. It's the people and how to make the right decisions, how to develop in ways that add up instead of being in conflict. And those are the things that are really difficult. And you know, the science, it's great, we have scientists we can do, but let's stretch our own boundaries maybe.
Cool. Yeah. You're welcome to clap anytime you want. Okay, is any voices that haven't been heard that you're struggling to give a voice? Okay, let's take one last question and I'll bring back to you.
I think I used to work in the public service before I joined NRF, and we were doing the oversight of the performance of the state at the time. We used to write these big reports, and by the way, we were presenting to Parliament our findings and what needs to be done. But then at some point they said, guys, these big reports of yours, those were the politicians, we don't have time to read them. And we resorted to writing fact sheets, and they said, and then the fact sheets, they were writing them. But again, I'm saying, there's still something that we can do to make sure that the politicians understand what we do. Because, for instance, at SASTA, we do have a program on debates. It's the learners that are in the STEM subjects. What they do, they go on competition to actually do a project and present that project. I can't remember the minutes. How many minutes? No, it's a lot. I think it's less than 10 minutes. It's less than 10 minutes where they actually present their project, and then we can do it. The scientists can do it. The researchers can do it. If those learners can do it, who's not been in the field, we can do it.
Okay, you wanna get a quick one in?
What are we doing to promote open innovation? We always the fault is the government, the fault is the university, the fault, but what more? Fault you, fault me, fault who? And this is we must ask ourselves. Universities need to create a new knowledge, but also need to share knowledge, and also have another challenge is to try that all this innovation in patentes, how the companies use, how the government use, and how we can talk with others that order to use all this knowledge that all is ready. Yes.
Okay, given our time constraints, I'm going to now ask the panelists to say your final words. So we'll ask all of them, and maybe incorporate into what actually can this group of people do as you respond and round up. Shall I just go? Anyone wants to go first or second?
Okay. I think in summary, it's just a question that I wanted to pose, and ultimately, it's just I don't necessarily want an answer, but it's something I think scientists need to think about this, what we're doing. Okay. Basically, if a scientist provides information that nobody wants and nobody needs and nobody cares about, is it truly an achievement? Is there value in this? Should we continue doing this? I'm asking this question because I think it is important. What we do, everybody has a very unique field, a very unique specialization. In listening to some of the conversations that were going on in the room, especially from the astronomers, you guys have some really great topics that I can't even pronounce. But I think what we need to do is, it's hard to complain that policymakers and communities don't accept what we're doing and they don't give funding for what we're doing. They don't like what we're doing, they don't know what we're doing. If, again, following the point, if it doesn't have value beyond to just us, and it's not suggesting that your work isn't really great, but it's just saying it's hard to expect somebody to really be like, let's throw money at this, if you really can't relate to communities.
Okay, thank you very much for all the comments. The Academies of Science stand in a boundary between scientists and policymakers, and our role is not necessarily doing basic research, but we do what we call consensus studies, which are simplifying the studies that are already there and making them available for the policymaker in a much more shorter version, which is not the 300-page thesis, as somebody has already said, but simplify it in a better language and also package it in different, packages like policy briefs, statements, and so forth, but also do a lot of discussions and deliberations with policymakers. And differently of those DGs, as somebody said, cabinet, parliamentary researchers, there are a lot of platforms that really will benefit and continue to benefit from the science advice that we give. But as somebody also said from NRF, we also do studies that have been given to us by government because of the trust of over 25 years, but we also do others on our own that have not been given to us because there are some areas that will not be given that you need to take by force.
I think, sorry, I would just say, be really clear on. I'd just say, be really clear on your policy ask.
Maybe this help. Okay, yeah, try now.
Be clear on the policy ask.
Sorry,
Not
doesn't like you.
He knows how to do it.
Okay, I just say something that I think you need to be really clear on the policy ask. So you need to know exactly what you're asking them and why, but you need to look at the counterside of that and ask, do they, what's the appetite? How do they want that presented? And then you go to them and say, what are your policy priorities? Where do you want and how do you want that information? I think co-creation is great. I think somebody said earlier this morning that we should have policymakers on the panels. I think that's absolutely right. We do a lot of debate to get the policymakers on the panels with the academics, with other stakeholders, charities, regulatory bodies, whatever that looks like, to move those conversations forward and hold them accountable. And small steps are essential. You can't change it all in a day. Look for those small steps so you change it slowly. And it's about, you're not banging on the door, you're trying to work with them and so to build up that trust. I'll leave these at the back if anybody wants to look at how we do our publications so you can see how we summarise some of that very complex research, which I know is always a struggle for our by not diminishing the quality of it.
Okay. So I've had the privilege over the last few years of being a data scientist in Science Council, where it's more towards industry and working with industry. And now I'm in academia. And one of the things that's been very interesting looking at the two in terms of how we look at the science is that when you're in industry, you always have to communicate value. Because on the other side, people are asking and saying, okay, fine, it's great math, all that thing, but ultimately we need to make an impact here, and how does this get connected? While when you go onto the other side of the academia, the way this is always very fluffy. You can't really see and it's not a thing about diminishing what we're doing in our sciences. If you sit with a scientist for long enough, you sit there and you discover the universe over and over and over and over again, and it shows that interest in part of actually building up that knowledge. The thing is now to learn that information, because I think also if we're not teaching our scientists currently today as they're going through our various systems across the continent or the world, how to do this is a very big disservice, because the challenges we highlighting are not South African or African challenges, international. And we're all sitting there going like, but science is not getting the limelight it's supposed to be getting, it's not getting the funding it's supposed to be getting. But we also have to come to the party and then bring everybody closer, right? The politicians will have to do their work, we'll have to do our work. It's not a one-side kind of solution.
Thanks very much. I think we need to give them a big round of applause. You're welcome to stay there as we round up. We now just going to round up. Our two excellent facilitators, let's give them a hand, because we're not far off from the program in terms of time. So so they asked me that I can just sort of round it up and let you go into the next coffee break. I want to say something on behalf of the organizers here, is that the shape of the program. So sort of in summary, we've had a lot of stuff thrown at us, right? The shape of the program was really around those three sort of topics that you see in the program. The first one was on innovation for development. You know, when you're talking about science, innovation, coming up with good ideas. You know, we heard about the projects using remote sensing, bioproducts, technology that comes out of science that impacts directly on development. That was the first section. The second section was science for society. So there we had a lot of the astronomy talks went in there. So, you know, engaging the public, trying to get people interested in science, and then sort of furthering human understanding of the universe, but human understanding of just everything. You know, when we do research helps society by helping us to understand society better. If we understand our climate better, then we can start influencing what we do about it. And so that was that second stream. And now the third stream with this panel was about science's influence on development. How do we influence things? Because doing the science is one thing, but how do we influence it? And our societies, whether we like it or not, our societies are governed. We have governments, we have people who set policy that influence people. And so how we influence that. And so that was sort of the basic structure. And I like those 5 points that Clifford mentioned. You know, when we look at science as a whole, we need to look at various areas that science can impact on development. So we're now at the end, you can breathe a sigh of relief from listening to the 4-minute talk. How was it? Was it okay? You managed all the talks? Let's give all the speakers a hand. Thanks to everyone for sticking to your time, for keeping this program tight. Now we move into the afternoon session of networking, of talking, keep the conversations going. Now we have the 2 whiteboards outside for the unconference sessions. So what we're going to do, this will be a last chance as you go out and grab your coffee, last chance to go and put ticks near the topics that you are interested in, and we'll just write down there where the venues are. There's 3 main venues which will have projectors and so on. That's this venue in the auditorium. The next venue is in the overflow room, which has a projector there. And the third venue is the SALT boardroom. Can I have a volunteer? Amidou, maybe, so Amidou there will show you where the SALT boardroom is. Now, those are the 3 primary venues. But if there's other topics there that you want to talk about, or that there's 5 people interested and you just want to have a small group discussion, there's chairs outside, there's picnic tables outside. This next session, the unconference session, is where you can get together along the lines of your interest and just chat, come up with something interesting. A big reminder tomorrow is that we want pictures for projects. We want you to come up with something. So when you have these conversations, ask yourself, okay, what are we going to do about it? And tomorrow, we would, the challenge to everyone is that we don't want everyone to just be here and, I don't know, are you feeling inspired by this? Yeah, okay, some people are, it's good. But we don't want people just to come and be inspired by what we talk about. We want to come up with plans for how we go forward. And tomorrow is the day of action or work, right? So tomorrow we'll have hackathons, we'll have, so if you have an idea, tomorrow you'll have a chance, come to the front and say, I need someone with data science skills, I need someone with machine learning skills, I need someone who knows about climate, I need someone who knows about psychology because I'm dealing with traumatically affected kids. And then pull people into groups and then work on something, work on a plan. And the idea at the end of tomorrow is that as you present these plans, we'll give, so we have an award of some seed funding. It's not a lot of money, but it's enough money to sort of get a few initial meetings or something to, with that group that you form. So it's just an incentive. It's to encourage you to please, try and make something cool come out of this. And by the end of tomorrow, hopefully we'll have sort of the start of several projects amongst various different disciplines. So with that, thank you very much. Have a look at the whiteboard, and there's an announcement.
No. How will we know which conference is motivating?
So after you tick, so after 5 minutes of the coffee break, we'll look at the most popular one. The most popular one will come here. We'll write it next to the topic, and then the second biggest will go to the other boardrooms. And if you have a topic that you want to create your own space, just write next to it. I'm in the table on the sunny side or something. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Sorry. One last thing is that there'll be a tour at 5 o'clock. If anyone is interested in a tour, we'll make an announcement at 5 o'clock, and then dinner will be here at 6. Thank you very much. Enjoy the conversations.
Well done.
Oh, yes. Okay. Now is the unconference, so we're going to have to end the stream. We'll pick up the stream again tomorrow. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
Good. Good. Do you have a charger? Huh? I forget it in my room. No.